Hi, Charles is a SirBookSage here, and this is a Song of Ice and Fire theory video. Now, this is filled with spoilers, so if you have not read all 5 published books so far, and you have not watched all 7 seasons of the TV show, turn the video off now, because you will be spoiled. So, from this point forward, spoilers abound. Okay, this video is about Mad King Aerys Targaryen, the caches of Wildfire, all underneath King's Landing, and why they're there, and who's going to set them on fire, who's going to light them up and blow the place up. Because a couple of quick things. I don't believe there's going to be an Iron Throne by the end of this book. I think it's going to be destroyed. This throne that they've been fighting over and killing each other over, I don't think it's even going to exist by the end of this story. And when it comes to the Mad King, here's my theory about him. I think that the Three-Eyed Raven reached out to Aerys and sent him visions of the coming winter and the coming of the others. Perhaps even a vision of the others coming south of the wall and conquering Westeros, conquering even King's Landing. And I believe that that broke Aerys' mind and drove him mad. And that's the germination of his madness and his insanity. And I believe he had the caches of Wildfire created and placed all underneath the city as his sort of last line of defense. That if that vision proved to be true and the time came, he would light it all up in a mutual assured destruction. Yes, he'd kill himself, kill everyone in the city, but he'd also take the others with him. And there's a possibility that by the time of Robert's Rebellion, when Tywin came into the city on the pretext of defending Aerys and the Iron Throne, and instead turned on him and sacked the city for Robert, was Aerys just so far gone in his madness that all he was clinging to was, my city's falling, burn them all? Like, that's all his mind was stuck on at that point. That's kind of where I'm going with this. Well, we'll see. And now, as far as who's going to light up all that wildfire, because when you're shown a loaded gun in Act 1, that gun is going to get fired before the end of the story. And all these caches of Wildfire is quite the loaded gun. Now, in the TV show, obviously, Cersei Lannister lit up at least the cache of Wildfire under Baelor's Sept, to destroy Baelor's Sept, get her revenge on the High Sparrow, all the Sparrows in general, and to get her revenge on House Tyrell, to remove them as a competition and threat, trying to hold on to that precarious perch that really is impossible to hold on to now that Tywin Lannister's dead. And it's possible that that might happen in the books. One of the things that Martin is really, really good at is layering in foreshadowing. He takes his time and he drops little hints here and there in different chapters of events to come. And he's also equally as good at putting in a similar amount of layers of misdirects, of red herrings. He gives you both possibilities equally, which makes it a challenge to try to figure out what's actually going to take place. And I'm really looking forward to a full, deep reread of this series, probably maybe not till next year, to kind of go through those and look for them now that, we know now what's happened in at least the first 5 books. I've skimmed a couple of chapters throughout Game of Thrones in the first book, and things are popping out to me, like events that have happened by like book 3. You can see the germination, the layering in of Martin's foreshadowing. But like I said, he's really good at misdirects and red herrings too. And one of the things regarding Wildfire is there are multiple mentions of Cersei and Wildfire. That imagery Martin has put together multiple times throughout these first 5 books. I know a Sansa chapter, I believe, has a reference to it, and I think a Jaime Lannister chapter has a reference to it. So he's definitely giving you that possibility that Cersei is going to do this. And obviously the TV show went down that path. Now, personally, for me, the moment season, I believe, 4 ended, Arya gives the Braavosi the coin, Vala Morgulis, Vala Dohaeris, and gets on the boat to go to Braavos. And then the screen goes black, and we did not get the epilogue to A Storm of Swords book. I have treated the show from that moment forward as just fan fiction. So I enjoy every last moment of it, but it's not canon to me until it's canon in the books. So I just look at everything that happens in the TV series from the start of season 5 on as just fan fiction. Now, I think they're going to hit the big notes of what's going to happen in the books, but I think they're free to do their own version, their own way to get to where the story ends and how it ends. And they could completely change part of the ending, too. I mean, they have that carte blanche to do that if they want. But now back to who's going to light up all these caches of wildfire. Because the other possibility, the other one is, and the one I think is going to do it, is Daenerys Targaryen. Now, I do not believe if she does light up all this wildfire, I don't believe it'll be in any Mad Queen type thing. I don't believe it'll be in any villainous way. I believe she's going to end up sacrificing herself and her dragons to destroy the others, and it'll take out King's Landing as well. That's my personal belief. I just see her character arc, her story arc, doesn't seem to me to be a character who's going to survive this. This whole series can't end with just somebody sitting on the Iron Throne. And then it's kind of pointless. If that's all we get at the very end is just, Jaime Lannister is on the throne or something like that. This is the end of an age. This is an epic, like pivotal moment in their world's history. And I think things are going to be very different by the end of it. It seems kind of the point of it, that the world will be changed. Now, whether it will be changed because the others will be gone for good, or whatever is causing these long seasons, something will happen and those will stop. Who knows? I mean, there's so many possibilities. But Daenerys Targaryen just seems like that kind of character that does not survive, that she's someone who passes into legend. She's already beginning to develop that status in Essos with like the Mother of Dragons and what do they call her, like Madi or whatever, Mother. She's already down that path in Essos of transcending into like a mythological, legendary, godlike person. Because if you think about all the slaves that she's freed, if they can hold on to their liberty, think about the story that will be passed down from generation to generation to generation in these places. What will that story look like 1,000 years from now? Probably nothing like what actually happened, which is another thing Martin's really, really good at, and this is kind of hinted at. He gives us so much world building and history and prophecies and all these things. But who's to say any of these histories are even accurate? Who told these histories? Just because Martin is telling these histories doesn't mean they're actually real or that's the way they really happened. These could be histories Martin's presenting that were written by the Citadel, and the Citadel has put their own version for it because the Citadel has their own agenda. So we don't really know, like Azor Ahai. I mean, who knows what really happened back then to defeat the Night's King the last time they came in such force? We don't really know. We just told the legend of Azor Ahai and the Lord of Light and all those things. But it's hard to really say. And this is one of the beauties of this story is Martin gives you so much information and he keeps you guessing all the way through until each individual reveal what's actually right, what's actually accurate, what's not, what's a misdirect. But I think it's going to be Daenerys. Because, yes, there were those references to Cersei and Wildfire. But I do believe that when Daenerys finally gets to King's Landing, she's going to make that sacrifice. And that will propel her into this mythological person. That she will have done all of this, built up all this whole army, brought these dragons, only to end up making the ultimate sacrifice to save them. That just seemed like a story arc for her kind of character. Far more than her ended up sitting on a throne and wasting away like Robert did. But we'll see. Now I'm going to read you a passage here. It is from the 3rd ever Daenerys chapter in the first book, A Game of Thrones. And this is kind of the germination. Here I go. That's like the 3rd time I've used that word for some reason in this video. But this is where my thoughts on Daenerys being the one who does this stems initially from this little passage here. But it was not the plains Dany saw then. It was King's Landing and the great red keep that Aegon the Conqueror had built. It was Dragonstone, where she had been born. In her mind's eye, they burned with 1,000 lights, a fire blazing in every window. In her mind's eye, all the doors were red. And that is, to me, the very first layering in of Dany's arc ending in fire. I mean, the series is called A Song of Ice and Fire. So, is everything we're getting here really just what was written after the fact by Archmaester Sam, 50 years later? And, but that's really where this idea begins for me. Now, the Red Door reference is a repeated reference throughout Daenerys' chapters. It's, to her, home was this house with a red door and a lemon tree, which you assume is in Braavos, because she grew up in exile. And there's multiple references to the Red Door. But that right there, for me, is the very first hint drop by Martin that she's going to go down this road and her storyline is going to end in fire like that. And I think it'll be a noble sacrifice, fire. But you never know. She might just light it all up completely by accident. We'll see. Martin can do so many different things with this. But that's my theory. I want to hear from you in the comments what you think of these theories, what your theories are around Aerys and the Wildfire and Daenerys in general. So hit me up in the comments. I'm really looking forward to reading this again, probably next year. And I am Charles the SirBookSage. Happy reading.